This is the year in which the middleman dies. If you work in any service agency, if you work in marketing, if you work in PPC, e-commerce, any of those, chances are that your customers are already thinking about using AI to replace you. Why? Because if your value relies on another person selling your work, which is what happens in a lot of agencies, then it's much easier to consider another path or an alternative action to deliver the same amount of work or value to their clients. So think about it this way. Say that you are a copywriting agency and you've been working on branding for an individual on LinkedIn, for example. There is nothing stopping that person investigating what AI can do for them. You see, a lot of people are looking at AI, and even though they know that it can probably take you only 80% of the way, they are happy with the level of quality that 80% provides. And so if you can pay 20 quid for a subscription, why will you pay thousands of pounds to an agency? I think this puts us in a situation where we need to think very clearly about who we want to service and completely forget about the middle section. A lot of agencies or a lot of businesses are trying to just capitalize on anybody. So if anybody walks across the door, we're going to service them. And I feel like that is a strategy that is not going to work anymore. If you are a middle-sized agency and you provide value to middle-sized clients, then you are being checked if AI can do your work. If you are at enterprise value, if you are really large, that is a different conversation because those type of clients require 100% quality or delivery. And so AI might take them 80% of the way, but the domain experts that they have need to be part of the equation to ensure that what AI generates, it's true and it's reliable and it meets the brand's guidelines and so on. A middle-sized customer, while they might understand all this, they might be quite happy with slightly less valuable work for a significant decrease in price. A lot of the businesses that I know, for example, marketing agencies, once again, they tend to think about their own marketing last. Treating your pipeline as the most important asset that you have is going to be this year the most important thing that a lot of businesses need to be focusing on. Where is this going to put us? I think that we're going to have to look at the tails of the distribution. So if you have a normal distribution in mathematics, you'll see that you have two tails. The top end of the tail is the extremely highly valuable clients that very, very few people can access, and the bottom end of the tail literally is everyone. Or the bottom end of the tail is the more niche kind of work, and the big portion in the middle where everybody is just all of the current servicing that happens. Like I said before, it's just you just try to service anybody that walks across the door. So because AI allows for hyper personalization, if you don't focus on explicitly breaking down the segments, not by age, not by location, you need to break them down almost to individual level. Because AI allows you to do that, and if you don't do that, it's very difficult to resolve a valuable problem that is not commoditized by AI. You see, we're going to have two modes going forward. Data is always been the mode, right? But a lot of the data has been democratized by the way in which LLMs have been trained. So, for example, I spent a lot of years in university learning about industrial engineering. Then I spent lots of years, you can see on this side actually, all of the books that I've used to learn about AI and actually keep learning about a topic that I'm really interested in, right? But now, if you go to ChatGPT and you ask them, what is a neural network? You get a significant answer that actually covers a lot of that. Previously, you will have to Google things, and then if you wanted to implement anything, you will probably have to go through a tutorial. Then you will have to understand code. There are lots of steps in that way, right? If AI can take away 80%, 85% of that, in fact, if AI can take, based on some benchmarks, 71% of the current tasks that the workforce does, then it really puts a lot of businesses and a lot of people at risk. What do I mean with all of this? Why am I raising so many alerts? It's simply because awareness is always the first step. There are a lot of people out there talking about how we need to shut down AI, how AI is going to be the end of us and so on. I think that is a very unproductive way of thinking. When I was back in university, in automation actually, I was actually part of the group that was saying, well, automation is just leading to the loss of jobs. A friend of mine back in the day, Alberto, I don't know if you're watching this, but he argued with me the complete opposite. Automation generates abundance and generates more work. If we look at the way in which the car manufacturing has gone over the years, back in the days, in the early 1900s, you had panel beaters, and they were the ones building all of what it's known body in white, the doors, and so on. As soon as automation was started to come into play, those jobs were completely automated because you will have CNC metal cutting, etc. The idea that all of those jobs were lost in the short term generated a lot of pain, but as we've seen over the years, it generated a massive amount of work. Because if a robot is moving parts away, you need to be able to code it and ensure that the positioning is created, that it doesn't clash with anything, and so on. So you have an engineer just for the controls. Then you need a mechanical engineer to put the robot together. You need a project manager to handle how the robot is being built and delivered and commissioned to the user, and so on. And you basically have more people in the supply chain, etc. We lost maybe 5-10 people that were working panel beating one car at a time, and we've generated hundreds of jobs out of that. Do I feel like this is a similar situation? Yes, I do. The reason why I can say that confidently is because I know how LLMs work internally. And even though they are extremely impressive, they are not intelligent. An LLM cannot generate intelligence on its own. It's, in certain circles, it's called an stochastic parrot. It's repeating what has been said before. And it's been trained on the internet. So you need to be quite crafty in the way that you approach it to make sure that you get the most out of it, right? Because the internet is full of garbage. So we're going to go through a period of pain, a period in which I believe before we actually see what's ahead of us, we're going to have to do a lot of work. And I want you to do this work early on. I don't want you to sleep on it. And so I'll give you a couple of examples. Data analytics is one of the things that I used to do back in the day, and it required a lot of visualizations and so on. Normally, I will spend 90% of my time building dashboards, coding, generating graphs, and so on. And then I will have very little time to make the decision, which is the most important thing. If I were to switch that completely, if I were to spend 90% of the time on what the data is telling me, how can I make more experiments? How can I prove all of the different constraints that I have a much wider picture of the problem that I'm trying to resolve and all of the data points that I have to actually resolve it. So a data analytics engineer could become a decision engineer. And I think that because the domain experience that comes with that kind of job, you can pair that with AI, generate way more work and results that are useful for what you're trying to accomplish. I was saying in a previous video that companies don't know what they're doing with the amount of work that they're producing these days. In Lean Six Sigma, we say that one of the wastes is overproducing. And we're in a similar situation. When we are overproducing, people are using that to basically get rid of people and improve their P&Ls. But they don't understand what's coming afterwards. They don't understand that what I just said, like these new roles, these new jobs, will need domain experience to be able to maximize the value that is provided by AI. So I feel like it's really short-sighted, once again, to let people go, to create a lot of pain for these people that they are going to need in months ahead. We've seen this with Klarna when they said that they were going AA first, and they sent away, I don't know if it was 600 people from the customer service team. We've seen it with Duolingo getting massive backlash the moment that they said they were going full on AI, and we'll see it with many other companies. So what do I recommend you doing going forward this year? Both if you're a business and if you're an employee. One, if you're an employee, what I recommend you to do is that even if your company doesn't support AI currently, try and spend a Saturday afternoon. I know that a lot of people have kids. I have kids of my own. Try to spend at least 2-3 hours every week playing with the tools available. You don't need to be technical anymore. Like, you don't need to know anything about how the models work. I mean, it's beneficial, obviously, but you don't need to do that to actually get some value from them. So try and play with models. I recommend you to just go to ChatGPT, try the front end, go to Claude, try the front end, try DeepSeek, so you have an understanding of open source models. And that is the beginning if you don't know where to start. After that, what is it? Well, I want you to understand workflows in general or processes. A lot of people have been building AI agencies. Basically, they just go to a lot of small business owners and they tell them, with AI, I can make your business 10 times better. Is it true? Maybe. I think a lot of people know what they are doing and they are doing it well and they're cashing it in. They're making a lot of money. I think a lot of people are just selling courses. So what I want you to do is just think of your job. So what are the things that you don't enjoy doing? What are the things that you could be probably delegating onto somebody else if you had the resource for it? Now, I'm not getting fancy, I'm not getting technical, I'm not getting into theory of constraints, I'm not getting into any of that. Just think about the jobs that you hate and try using ChatGPT or Claude, like the ones I've said before, to brainstorm a way of using the technology to let AI do that job for you. If you work in finances, if you work in heavily audited industries where your data cannot be leaked or cannot be shared and all of that, what I recommend you to do is that you go to Claude and you give it an example of the schema that you're working with. So say that you're working with data and you have personal identifiable information, which obviously is a big no. So at the top of your database table, you will have name, for example, and then you have email, and then you'll have identification. That is what the schema is, right? So if you're trying to manipulate data in multiple different ways, give AI the schema and ask it to craft code for you to run locally in your machine without the AI seeing it. And so you can create multiple different visualizations of what you're trying to visualize and obtain data and gather for and so on. If you do that, I feel like, 6 to 8 weeks, you could be in a really strong position to then start delegating these tasks to AI and start adding a lot of value to your own work and to your business. You might be thinking, well, why do I want to do that? Maybe I don't get a pay rise, maybe da. I feel like at this point in time, you need to upskill yourself with the technology that is available. Now, if you are a business and you have, say that you are small, not really big. I'll talk about medium size in a minute. If you're really small, you have the advantage of not having constraint and most likely processes either. That is a weakness, but it's also a strength because it means that you can be really, really flexible, really, really fast. I feel like if you're really small, you need to follow what I just said about the employee. Try to spend an afternoon, 2-3 hours a week, learning about the tools, playing around. 20 pounds a month is not that much, hopefully. I'm hoping that you can afford it and you can get a lot of value from it. I think once you take the first step and you see how much value you can get out of it and you start learning about prompting and so on, the 20 quid are going to feel like nothing and you're going to want the next step. What is the next step? If you're a business owner, you know that a lot of things are processes and you have a lot of functions working together. And so AI agencies, most of the people that have been working in AI agencies, they've been using something called NA10. NA10 is a competitor to Zapier, which was the first one that was doing things like this. And it's a low-code platform. But it's a low-code platform that has a significant skill gap. You need to learn about the nodes, you need to learn about the configuration, you need to learn about JSON schema, you need to learn about the API endpoints, you need to learn about a lot of things that I do believe it will take more time. Understanding how anything works is kind of like a mix between doing a lean audit into a business and understanding where the waste is, the theory of constraints and so on, combined with the generative AI solutions that go alongside it. But that's the next step. So if you are that medium-sized enterprise, I recommend you to start looking at it. If you cannot invest in somebody like me, a head of AI that knows all these different tools, knows how to code, knows how to approach different things, the most cost-efficient way in which you can make significant improvements is by trying to understand, hopefully, culturally, who fits better with an AI mindset. An AI mindset is what I call being really interested in the technology to the point where people start experimenting in their own free time. Hopefully, after hearing what I said about if you're an individual, an employee, you should play with it. Hopefully that resonates with your employees and they start doing that. So that is the perfect group of people that you need to target to basically launch an initiative to fix a small process internally. Why small? Because I feel like the power of momentum is super important. If you look at the laws of business, 21 laws of business, I can't remember who wrote it. But if I'm not mistaken, the power of the big Mo is law number 8. And it basically means that the most difficult thing that anybody can do is take the first step. Once you've taken the first step, everything becomes easier. So if you're trying to transform your business with AI, the best thing that you can do is put that small group of people that are really interested in the technology to work together to fix something with AI. Once you can prove the value to the rest of the people, the skepticals, the ones that haven't been converted because they think that, I don't know, I don't think that there are many people these days that don't believe in the technology, but I'm pretty sure that there are some still out there. This is the only way in which you will be able to bring them alongside. Because the moment that you see something working in one area, people start being curious. And they come to you and it's like, oh, how did you do that? Do you think that we can do something in this area? I have these ideas and so on. And I think like in the past, a lot of mid-sized enterprises are dead inside just simply because they are so caught up in the bureaucracy that all of the experimentation and innovation is just dead. If you come into a new job and you have an idea and you say, hey, shall we try this? I feel like a lot of times businesses are just putting them away and that's what's killing the companies internally. So I think that that's what you should do. I've seen extremely good results, both at individual level and at an enterprise level by doing this. If you like what you're hearing, if you want to know more about how I go about running lean workshops and understanding how to streamline value, how to implement AI, how to train AI, just drop me a comment below. I just want to know what is it that you're interested in so I can make more content along the way. Hopefully more positive than this one, but I really hope that you take something from this and you really spend the time to learn all the technology. And that's it. So I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.